morning and welcome to Musings of a Madman. I am your host, the last operator of the universe, and today we discuss a very sensitive topic, something that always brings passion in people. When they discuss it, they just want to get all fired up and stuff. We're going to talk about atheism, or in this case, lack of belief in a deity, lack of belief in a god. More specifically, we can talk about the root cause of my atheism. Now, not believing in God is something that it's a term that I don't really like to advertise. Not because I'm ashamed or anything, not because I'm bothered by what people think, not because I'm bothered by how it appears, there's no specific reason why I choose not to, advertise it. I guess you could say I don't advertise a lot of things, but in this case, I feel like it's close to home. I feel like people attach too much to the idea, to the name, or to the word God, and that clouds their judgment when you start talking. And so there have been a few times where someone has asked me, why do you not believe in God? And I'm surprised. Like, sometimes I actually have to think about it. Why don't I not pray? Why do I not go to church? Why do I not? Actually, I do go to church, by the way, but it's not for religious reasons. But yeah, why do I not conform to a religious system? Why do I not pray? Why do I not think about God? Why do I not align myself in a perfect way that God would want me to? The simple reason would be because I don't want to. Simple as that. It starts off as I don't want to, and ends up as there's no reason to, and sort of muddles in with spices of like there's no need to, and there's no difference, honestly. And this is, as I said before in the beginning, my journey and my route for not believing. I look at it as there's no difference whether or not I believe or do not believe. My world is not altered, changed, or affected in any way. I just use different synonyms to just say the same thing. It's pointless. So let's start at the beginning. The first moment I actually thought about whether or not God is real, right? Growing up, I was always taught, automatically I knew that God is real. There was no discussion about it. There was no need to be convinced into it. You automatically knew God is real, right? So it was up to you to find out whether or not you believe in God. Automatically you believe, but you had to sort of find your own way in believing God that is not based off what your parents or your family members or your environment taught you. Because I think, to me personally, that's one thing that true believers, and I say this not in the sense of true believers who follow the law. If we're talking about the Bible, people who follow the Bible note for note, no. I believe that true believers are the ones who believe in something, in this case, God, who believe in their God in a way that's personal, Like the connection is between, it's confined to who they are. It's not something that they can share with the world. They can't go out and teach someone else how to believe the way they believe, I sort of see it as like a style, There are others who just follow the rules, You just follow what you've been told. You just do exactly as you're expected. And I guess that's one way of believing. But to me, I feel like you have to believe in such a way that if an atheist like me comes to you and asks you, why do you believe in God? You should not be able to, you shouldn't make me feel confused about why, You shouldn't make me think that's not good enough. I should be like, that's unique and special, and I honestly can't even fathom how that would be like. It's amazing. You talk to these people and you can feel the passion, you can feel the way they believe in it. It's contagious, contagious, it's powerful. But like I said, as an atheist, it should not affect you in such a way that it angers you and you want to argue about it. And that's sort of how I was when I became an atheist, when I fully embraced the atheism spectrum and started started having debates and conversations with people. I would get into arguments over why someone's beliefs don't make sense. I'll be like, that doesn't make sense. And thinking back on it now, I realized that I was just pushing too hard, and I was sort of um, hoping to convince people to come onto my side, or hoping to be convinced to go back to the other side. And yeah, it's a sign of weakness in your faith if you are trying to argue about it. But if you're discussing it, discussion should be perfectly fine. It should be perfectly acceptable. You should be able to go to someone who has opposite beliefs and talk to them about how you think or feel, and not have it attacked. Just scrutinized, analyzed, and then shot back at you some form of question. So we can start at the beginning. Why did I decide to stop believing, or how did I get on the journey? For me, the clearest memory I have is in grade 4. I was walking home with my friends, and just on a whim, like we used to talk about a lot of things. I don't know what people in grade 4 talk about now. I don't know what we talked about in grade 4, So we're walking home, and towards the end of the journey, one of our friends is about to dip into his house. It's close by, and the three of us, or two of us, will continue walking by ourselves. So I wanted to ask all of them while they were there. And I don't know what kind of child I was, but I think I also asked it just to provoke some sort of reaction out of them. So I asked, what if God is not real, right? What if he's not real? And the reactions I got were frightened. They were like, what? I got the reaction I think I wanted, I got shock and awe. I got them to look at me like, how can you even think that? And I think I loved that feeling back then. So they tell me, no, the teacher will beat you, don't even ask that, don't say such things. It was just generally just fear and emotionally charged. They were not trying to think about my question, they just wanted to shut me down, right? And from that moment on, I sort of danced to the idea of God being real, not being real. And it was somewhere around grade 5 where the last time that I remember praying to God. I don't remember what I was praying about, I don't remember what I was saying. All I remember is that I was doing backflips on the bed. And as I flipped, my shin bone landed into the table, into the edge of the table. The thing just shattered. And I just looked at it and I was like, wow, that's amazing, it could have been much worse. To me, I thought I had just been saved, right? So I think I might have prayed to God to say thanks, and I might have also been praying so when I jump back on the bed and continue doing my backflips, I do not get hurt again, I don't get hurt. I was basically praying as a protection, please don't, make sure I don't fall or hurt myself badly when I continue doing this nonsensical thing that I'm doing. Then along the years, grade 5, grade 6, grade 7, I would meet people who I would discuss my thoughts with, but never really delve into it. It was only in grade 8 where I truly found someone who I could actually discuss my lack of belief and sort of scrutinize their beliefs. And the main thing that I realized about believing or not believing was I based my lack of belief on how well I could dispute different gods. So I would find the Christian God, the one in the Bible. I would find the Jewish God, the one in the Torah. I would find the Muslim God, the one in the Quran. I'd find some of the Hindu gods, and sort of I never got my hands on the manuscripts, the Veda scripts. So I wouldn't know how to dispute them, but I would just look them up and try and find out whether or not this would be possible. Excuse me. I got especially interested in the Greek gods, somewhere around, I think, long after high school. And I did it more of a joke form, I would say things like, oh my gods, or by the gods, I would just reference them in some ridiculous manner. And to me, I felt like I was just playing a part. but I could actually picture them in my mind, and I could say for a while I was closer to those gods than I ever than I was at the time to the gods I'm supposed to believe in, or the God I'm supposed to believe in, basically the God of the Bible. So at that point in time, I sort of found a way to accept these gods more than the God of the Bible. So this was who I was for a while. I was a disbeliever and occasionally a believer in something that in gods that I possibly couldn't understand or fathom or even care to understand or care to believe in. These gods didn't offer anything to me. I didn't have to pray to them. I didn't have to do rituals for them. I just believed in them like a passive believer would on anything. You ask them, do you believe in God? They believe, yes, of course I believe in God. You ask them, do you go to church? No. Ask them, do you read your book or the Bible? They like, no. I ask them, do you follow things? Like, no, but I do believe in God. So that's how I was with these Greek gods. I believed in them only by name, only by saying so, but I didn't actually put effort into my beliefs. So it was somewhere around varsity where I decided or got into situations where I enjoyed arguing about it. I always wanted to argue with a believer, like, why do you believe in God? I wanted to just rattle their cages. Like I said, I think from grade 4 I still more or less have that mentality where I want to say something that will shock and awe someone, and where I arrived at was I would question the idea of God, right? Most people start off with God exists, so I exist, right? And I wanted to find out, can I exist and then God not exist? Do I need to attach God to my reality? And for me, the answer was no, I do not. I can trace back my lineage. I can trace back my parents. My parents made me, right? And then they raised me. They taught me how to do things. In no way in that situation do I remember God infiltrating himself in. If he did, he must have done it spiritually, so not in our physical realm. He must have done it from outside. And so there I could discount and say, no, I do not need God to exist. I do not need God to be who I am. I do not need God to act the way I do or be the way I am. And that also made me wonder, what about other people, Do they need God in their lives? Do they need God to be who they are? And for most people, no. Believing in God is just a side thing. It's a side project. It's not something that envelops their lives and makes them encounter everything. So belief in God, or my lack of belief in God, it was rooted on the idea that whether or not I believe in God, there won't be an effect on the outside world, and whether or not God is real, there won't be an effect on the outside world as well. Whether or not God is real in the outside world, right? It won't affect the physical world. God does not physically reach his hand down and touch things and move things. He has messengers, as most people say. Most people describe that as God won't physically come to you to make you do things or tell you to do things. He'll send a messenger. It'll come through some form of way that you'll come in disguise. Let's say that, yeah. So it'll come in such a way that you could easily it'll come to you in such a way that you could easily confuse it for just a normal agency in the world. I mean this by saying, some people will say God told them to, God told them to start preaching, right? And when they tell me the story of how God convinced them, they go like, I met a pastor or I met a man who told me this story, and then it's not exactly relating to God. It's more or less you interpreting the world and then finding meaning behind it. And the problem that I had when I pushed hard into atheism was I realized that everybody has this sort of experience as well, don't they? If you truly do look for signs and whatnot from your God or your deity, you would see them in your world. You would see their effects. I realize that God has as much power over your life as you allow him or her. Yeah. So, and to me, I couldn't put much power into my life. I couldn't allow him to have too much power in my life. And I don't think about God as much as I used to. I don't think about him negatively, positively, or neutrally at all. It's like being alone. Most people say, don't you have some sort of something bigger than yourself that you believe in? And I say, I do, yes. I do believe in something bigger than myself. But it's not a person, it's not an identity, it's not something that speaks and moves and thinks, I believe in the world, I believe in consciousness. I believe that people are conscious, I believe that people have effects on the world. I believe that the world itself also might have some sort of will of itself, Mother Nature and all that, Father Time. I believe that the universe that we have is very beautiful, it's amazing, and to take it for granted and imply that it's built for a reason, it's very dangerous. It muddies the waters and makes you single-minded about your purposes. Makes you single-minded about your views. You won't try to expand how you think, how you behave, what you do. You'll be stuck in a bubble. And that's one thing why I do not like purpose. But to round it off, the God of the Bible is the one I was supposed to believe in. I do not believe in him simply because I don't think he's real. And I guess that's the crux of the argument. That's what I asked my friends in grade 4, and that's what I was leaning towards in grade 4. What if he's not real? And to me, the answer to that question is not that bad. If he's not real, big whoop. Nothing really changes. Man, I had something to say, but gotten confused a bit. God. So I was gonna title this a Disbelieving Story, and yeah, I don't know what to tell you here. It's a very deep question, but the reason why I don't like the question is because it automatically assumes God is real and I'm just trying to negate his existence, which I disagree with. The idea should be we're trying to find out. I don't have reasons to think God is real. I don't have evidences that pile up to say God is real. I don't have evidence that pile up God is not real as well. That's the thing. I don't have evidences to prove God is not real. I don't have evidences to prove God is real. And to me, if you can't prove he's real, then that's as good as saying he's not real. Yeah. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Another question that I also like to ask people is, if God is real, why does he exist? And usually the answer is to create the world, or he exists because, actually I haven't gotten a good answer for this. Why does he exist? Why would a God need to exist? Okay, if humans are not, let's assume we can rewind the time to before the universe was created, and we just have this primordial entity, this God, and he's there. Wouldn't he ask himself why he's there? Is the implication that he exists to create us? Does that make sense? Does that give him purpose? Doesn't that sort of bind him to us, that he cannot exist outside of us, and neither can we exist outside of him? So it has to be both. Because the Bible story, especially when I read it and hear people talking about it, the one thing that I take away from it is that humanity is a very prime focus there. God takes a lot of energy and time to spend to make life in the world hospitable for us. It takes a lot of time to punish us, takes a lot of time to reward us. And to me, that kind of God doesn't seem possible. I look at that kind of God and I think he's too he's too involved. He's too personal. He's too much of a he. Look at the noun that I'm even using to describe him as. It's a male. Like that's doesn't make sense. A God would not be male or female. God would not have anger, lust, happiness, and all these things. He would not feel pride. The reason he would not feel these things because these are human emotions. These are things that we feel as humans. You can't even compare it to, I guess maybe let's say a dolphin, for example. They don't feel the same way we feel. And for us to assume that God up there is out there feeling things like rage and jealousy and pride and disappointment is the most dangerous thing I've ever thought of. To bring down a God to our level and imply that he's just like us is very disturbing. Describe it as an it, it is out there, or just by pronoun. I mean, we have sort of made God into a human idol type of thing. I think I've rambled on for too long. And yeah, thanks for having me.